It's our responsibility to make where we live decent and clean. It's our responsibility to protect and police our own communities. We do not need racist police policing us, killing us as they please. Why not we police ourselves? Why couldn't those black officers who are trained, soldiers who are trained, young people who are militant but without direction, why can't we train our young people? And instead of the money going to a system that oppresses us, some of those tax dollars that we give to police, give them to us and let us police ourselves.
In this video, we revisit the words of Minister Louis Farrakhan as he speaks directly to the struggles facing black people in America. His message is not about empty politics or surface debates, because it is about truth, survival, and responsibility. Farrakhan challenges us to look honestly at the systems around us and to question whether they were ever meant to serve us. He calls for unity, discipline, and a renewed sense of self-respect within our own communities. These are not easy conversations, but they are necessary ones. Watch closely, listen carefully, and reflect on how his words apply to the reality we face today.
A lot of brothers and sisters feel like they don't want to vote this year because they feel like the system is out to get them anyway. So what's the point?
Well, that's the thinking of the most enlightened, because the most enlightened know that the system is rotten. It's been rotten for a long time. And so, can we get out of this system something good for us? We could. If we were united with an intelligent self-interest that we could push, we might be able to get something. But America is out to destroy the little man. I'm talking about those in the highest places. Flint, Michigan was not an accident. That's by design. I'm on my way to Newark, New Jersey, and I just heard that some lead was coming into Newark, into schools. And I asked the question, whose schools? They said the black and the brown. Is that an accident? I don't think so. We are being designed to be destroyed. And unless we see that and come together as a people under vicious attack, then we will suffer the consequences of the evil that...
Minister Louis Farrakhan expresses deep and heartfelt concerns about the condition of black communities within America. He acknowledges the widespread frustration among black people who feel the political system is corrupt and unresponsive to their needs. This disillusionment leads many to question the value of voting when the system seems rigged to serve others, not them. For decades, black people have endured broken promises and systemic neglect. And this reality is recognized as a painful truth that must be confronted, not ignored. The minister points out that this skepticism is not ignorance, but in fact the outlook of the most enlightened. Those who have studied history, who have watched generation after generation petition America for fairness, can see clearly that the system is rotten. It has been rotten since its foundation, built on land stolen from indigenous peoples and wealth stolen from African bodies. From the moment the first slave ships arrived, the political framework of America was never meant to serve the oppressed. It was designed to maintain power in the hands of a few. To expect true justice from such a system without unity and leverage is to ignore history's lessons. Still, Farrakhan emphasizes that even in a rotten system, oppressed people have sometimes been able to extract concessions when united by intelligent self-interest. The gains of the civil rights era, though limited, were won not because the system suddenly embraced morality, but because black unity and relentless pressure forced lawmakers to respond. When communities moved together, boycotting buses, marching through streets, confronting institutions. They made America feel the weight of their presence. It is this kind of collective power that remains necessary because fragmentation only ensures that no progress will be made. The minister warns, however, that America has always sought to destroy the little man, those without resources or power, those whose survival depends on the mercy of structures already set against them. He points to Flint, Michigan, as a clear example. The poisoning of a majority black city through its water supply was not a mere accident. To suggest otherwise would be to overlook the reality of environmental racism. Flint's crisis reflects a deliberate pattern where the health and lives of black communities are treated as disposable. And Flint is not the only place. Farrakhan draws attention to Newark, New Jersey, where lead contamination was reported in school water systems. When he asked which schools, the answer came: the schools serving black and brown children. To him, this was no coincidence. It was a continuation of the same pattern, where toxic neglect always falls hardest on the most vulnerable. Across the country, majority black cities face water crises, housing abandonment, and underfunded schools. From Jackson, Mississippi to Baltimore, Maryland, the same story repeats itself. Black communities are systematically deprived of safe infrastructure, healthy environments, and reliable resources. This pattern is not the result of chance, but of design. Decades of redlining confined black families to areas with weaker political representation and fewer investments. Industrial plants and waste facilities were disproportionately placed near these neighborhoods. Grocery stores fled, leaving food deserts in their place. Hospitals closed while liquor stores multiplied. These are not natural developments. They are decisions shaped by policymakers, corporations, and city planners who understood exactly who would bear the brunt of those decisions. Farrakhan calls this reality what it is: a design for destruction. Unless black people recognize this design and come together in unity, the consequences will be devastating. To remain scattered is to accept the slow death delivered by poisoned water, poisoned food, broken schools, and over-policing. The minister's warning echoes long-standing truths spoken by other black leaders. Malcolm X reminded us that the ballot and the bullet were two sides of the same struggle, that rights would never be given freely without pressure. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the fierce urgency of now, recognizing that delayed justice was another form of denial. Today, Farrakhan frames the issue in terms of design, urging black communities to see that nothing in their suffering is accidental. The consequences of ignoring this reality are clear. Without unity, disillusionment turns into apathy, and apathy ensures that the same structures remain untouched. Communities remain poisoned, schools remain neglected. Generations inherit not progress but decay. Farrakhan insists that the enlightened must not stop at recognition of the problem. They must channel that awareness into collective strategy. This is the crossroads. Black people must decide whether to resign themselves to the decay of America's institutions or whether to form their own centers of power, using unity as the only shield against destruction. History shows that when black communities move as one, they can reshape the very ground beneath their feet. But history also shows that when they remain divided, they are targeted without mercy. Farrakhan's message is both caution and call to action. The system is corrupt, yes, but the future of black survival depends not on trusting it, but on outmaneuvering it. That requires unity, strategy, and recognition of the design that seeks to destroy. Only then can the people resist the consequences of the evil that operates from the highest places.
Look, Donald Trump is who he is. And that's one thing that politicians are not. It's all game playing. But with Mr. Trump, what you see is just what you get. He's not trying to be politically correct. He doesn't care. And when they say he's not presidential, I ask myself, what does it mean to be presidential? You wear a suit, You talk to the American people like you possess the character and the dignity of one who seeks the highest office in the land, and behind the door, you're the worst criminal on the planet, plotting the overthrow of nations and governments and regime change and sending drones to kill people you don't like. That's presidential. So if that's the kind of person you want, vote for Hillary, vote for Trump, and you go to hell with both of them. As far as Mr. Sanders is concerned, he's probably the most honest of all of them, but we have to be careful because this is the most important election in the history of this country, because you're not just voting for a president, you're voting for the person who can take America totally down.
Minister Louis Farrakhan reflects on the political climate by examining the character of those vying for the highest office in America. He begins with Donald Trump, pointing out that whatever one may think of him, Trump is at least transparent about who he is. In a world of politicians skilled in games, masks, and manipulation, Trump presents himself without pretense. He does not attempt to be politically correct, nor does he dress up his speech to fit into the expected mold of Washington. Farrakhan emphasizes that this bluntness, while controversial, reveals something the American people are not accustomed to. For once, a politician shows his hand openly, even if many disagree with what is revealed. This raises an important question about what it means to be presidential. Farrakhan challenges the definition often repeated in the media, where dignity and polish are mistaken for moral leadership. He argues that wearing a suit and speaking with eloquence to the American public means little if behind closed doors, leaders are plotting destruction. What is the value of looking presidential when decisions are made to overthrow governments, topple nations, and authorize the drone strikes that kill innocents abroad? For Farrakhan, the contradiction between public image and private action is at the heart of America's hypocrisy. Leaders claim the mantle of democracy and righteousness while carrying out criminal operations that destabilize entire regions. If this is what is meant by presidential, then the title itself is hollow. He extends this critique to Hillary Clinton. To him, her polished demeanor and experience symbolize the traditional version of presidential that America praises. Yet, beneath the surface lies the same destructive machinery. Foreign interventions under her watch as Secretary of State left scars across Libya and the Middle East. And Farrakhan frames this as proof that image should not blind people to reality. Whether one chooses Trump or Clinton, he warns, the outcome for oppressed communities will be the same. Both represent a system that operates against truth and justice. His words cut sharply. Those who cast their lot with either candidate will share in the damnation of their choices. Bernie Sanders, however, Farrakhan describes differently. He acknowledges Sanders as perhaps the most honest of the candidates, a man who speaks plainly about inequality and systemic failures. Sanders' critique of Wall Street and his call for universal health care stand apart from the political elite who enrich themselves while ignoring the struggles of the poor. Yet even with this recognition, Farrakhan offers caution. Honesty does not guarantee power in a nation where structures of influence are deeply entrenched. Sanders may represent something closer to integrity, but the system he seeks to change is designed to resist transformation. Hope without awareness of this resistance can turn quickly into disappointment. Farrakhan states plainly that America will never again be the great power she once imagined herself to be. The golden age, if it ever existed, is gone. What remains is the possibility of survival, and that survival depends entirely on whether the nation chooses the right path. For Black communities, this warning carries a particular weight. Every election cycle promises change, yet the realities of racial injustice, poverty, and systemic neglect remain unshaken. The question then becomes, if America itself teeters on the brink, what will happen to those who already live at the margins? Farrakhan's analysis suggests that black people must not be seduced by appearances of presidential behavior or by campaign promises that mask deeper agendas. Instead, they must sharpen their awareness of the forces at play and recognize that America's future will be determined not just by who wins, but by whether the nation confronts the evils it has long exported abroad and enforced at home. History provides the evidence of his concerns. Under presidents celebrated for their Polish, from Reagan to Obama, policies have emerged that devastated black communities. Reagan's war on drugs launched an era of mass incarceration that caged generations. Clinton's crime bill intensified that cycle. Even during the Obama years, when the nation proclaimed itself post-racial, police killings of black men and women continued unabated, and economic gains remained uneven. The lesson Farrakhan draws is clear. Presidential image has never guaranteed justice for black people. The polished suits, the rhetoric of dignity, and the ceremonial appearances have often masked policies that harm the most vulnerable. In this moment, when America stands at a crossroads, Farrakhan underscores that the decision is larger than personalities. The office itself carries the power to guide the nation toward ruin or survival. For him, greatness is already out of reach, but survival remains possible, if and only if America chooses the right course. What that course is, he leaves to explain further. But his warning is stark. The wrong choice could accelerate the nation's decline beyond repair. This reflection is not only about politics, but about truth. Farrakhan presses his audience to see beyond performance and to judge leaders by the realities they produce. Whether the system can be salvaged or not, the future depends on piercing the illusion of presidential polish and confronting the true character of those who seek power. For black communities, this confrontation is not optional. It is essential to survival in a nation where the wrong leadership can mean the difference between endurance and destruction.
With our own. May I just say this, brother? You know, at the march and before 10/10/15, we said we were going to boycott Christmas. I haven't been on this show since, but we boycotted Christmas. We told our people, no, it's up with Jesus and it's down with Santa. Send the white boy that you lie, telling your children that he's gonna drop something down a chimney that don't even exist when you live in an apartment building, and then you go and spend all your money downtown, but now after they take your money, you don't get the respect of even building the American economy. So this year, they listened to us, and above all, God heard us and made the weather so warm till all the things that they bought for winter sales is in the factory now or in the warehouse now because they weren't selling. So here's what I learned. Several Walmarts, about 200 or more Walmarts closed down. 40 Macy's closed down. Best Buy, all of the big ones, they suffered. Now, why did they suffer? Because we decided we're gonna squeeze our money. We can't fight you with guns. We don't have no guns. And the guns that we have, we don't know how to shoot. So we end up shooting and killing ourselves. But that dollar that you got in your pocket, boy, squeeze that dollar and find a way to pool that dollar like Angela and DJ are doing, opening up a juice bar. Not a whiskey bar, but a juice bar where we can go and get a healthy drink to keep us alive in a better health another day. We can all do that and then put out of the community those that are bloodsuckers of the poor.
Minister Louis Farrakhan revisits the call he made years earlier for a boycott of Christmas spending. At the Million Man March anniversary in 2015, he urged black people to step away from a holiday that drains their pockets while giving little in return. He asked communities to reject the myth of Santa Claus and instead embrace a deeper truth, that consumerism during the holiday season does not honor Christ, and it does not honor the people who sacrifice their limited wealth chasing false traditions. His point was not about religion alone, but about economics. Why teach children that a white figure slides down chimneys that do not exist in their homes, while parents struggle in apartments and public housing? Why perpetuate a lie that empties wallets but never strengthens families? The boycott carried a message that extended beyond holiday symbolism. For generations, Black people have been encouraged to pour their hard-earned dollars into downtown stores, into shopping malls, into chains that extract wealth from the community without ever reinvesting. Farrakhan highlights the hypocrisy. After that money is spent, Black neighborhoods remain underfunded, disrespected, and overlooked in the building of America's economy. To him, the Christmas boycott was more than a symbolic protest. It was an economic strategy, a chance to reveal how much power the black dollar truly holds. The results, he insists, were visible. That year, unseasonably warm weather left winter clothing stockpiled in warehouses, unsold. Major retailers like Walmart and Macy's announced store closures in the hundreds. Even giants like Best Buy reported slumps. Farrakhan connects this economic pain to the power of collective withholding. When Black consumers decide to redirect their spending, corporations notice. And while weather may have played a role, he frames it as divine reinforcement, a sign that God supported the decision of the people to resist financial exploitation. For Farrakhan, this is proof that Black communities do not need guns to wage an effective struggle. In fact, he laments that the few weapons Black people possess too often harm one another rather than serve as protection. Instead, the true weapon available to every household is the dollar. Every bill in a pocket, every decision of where to spend or not spend, becomes a lever of power. When multiplied across millions of people, the collective economic force can rival any protest march. Every dollar spent at such establishments becomes an investment in survival and longevity, not just consumption. This vision recalls the long tradition of economic self-determination within Black America. From the rise of Black Wall Street in Tulsa to the establishment of cooperatives and credit unions during the Civil Rights era, the idea that freedom requires financial independence has always been central. Leaders from Marcus Garvey to Malcolm X stressed that without economic power, political rights remain hollow. Farrakhan situates his boycott within this lineage, urging that the black dollar must be weaponized with intelligence and unity. At the same time, he issues a stern warning about the bloodsuckers of the poor. These are the businesses and individuals who enter Black neighborhoods not to uplift, but to exploit. They sell products that weaken health, drain wealth, and deepen dependency. Whether it is predatory lenders, liquor stores, or corporations flooding neighborhoods with cheap goods, the effect is the same. The community loses strength. Farrakhan's message is clear. Black people must decide who is allowed to profit from their neighborhoods and who must be excluded. Economic power is not only about where money is spent, but about who is permitted to remain inside the circle of trust. The boycott of Christmas becomes then more than a seasonal gesture. It is a blueprint for a broader strategy of self-preservation. If communities can collectively reject holiday consumerism, they can collectively reject other forms of exploitation. The same principle can be applied to banking, housing, healthcare, and education. Each sphere where money flows is an opportunity to redirect resources toward survival and progress. What Farrakhan reveals is that unity is the missing ingredient. The tools are already present. The dollar is already in every hand. The businesses that could be supported already exist, and more can be created. But without collective will, the cycle of exploitation continues. His call is not for charity but for discipline. For the kind of discipline that understands that every purchase carries a consequence.
Who could argue with us for trying to make our own community a decent place to live? You know, we really are being colonized. Harlem and Brooklyn, they used to be or are colonies. In a colony, The education is controlled from outside. The politics is controlled from outside. The economics is controlled from outside. The police in a colony are not there to serve and to protect, but there to keep the colonized ones from disturbing the status quo. The question is, do we want to continue to live as a colony, or do we want to be like the original 13 colonies and decide that we've had enough? Let's break from a colonial past and let's seek freedom. That means what? How do we do it? What do we do now? Where shall we go now? It's our responsibility to make where we live decent and clean. It's our responsibility to protect and police our own communities. We do not need racist police policing us, killing us as they please. Why not we police ourselves? Why couldn't those black officers who are trained, soldiers who are trained, young people who are militant but without direction, why can't we train our young people? And instead of the money going to a system that oppresses us, some of those tax dollars that we give to police, give them to us and let us police ourselves. Let's take control of the schools. You can't make a decent people with an education rooted in white supremacy. We've got to understand that this is not a system that will make us clean and decent and upright and strong and self-determined people. We have to set up education for all those in the colonies.
Minister Louis Farrakhan raises a question that is both urgent and undeniable. Who could possibly object to black people wanting their own communities to be safe, clean, and livable? Yet this simple desire exposes a deeper truth. Black neighborhoods across America function less like autonomous communities and more like colonies. Harlem and Brooklyn, once centers of black culture and resilience, are cited by Farrakhan as examples. These spaces may appear vibrant on the surface, but in reality, their education, politics, and economics are often dictated by forces outside the community itself. Colonialism, in its traditional sense, describes when an external power controls the land, resources, and governance of a people for its own benefit. Farrakhan insists that the same dynamic plays out in America's inner cities. Schools are overseen by boards disconnected from the needs of black families. Local politics are influenced by donors and parties headquartered far from the neighborhoods they claim to serve. Economic life is shaped by outside corporations that extract profits but reinvest little. And the police, whose role in theory is to serve and protect, instead operate as an occupying force, maintaining order, suppressing dissent, and ensuring that the status quo remains intact. This framing is not unique to Farrakhan. Decades earlier, activists like Malcolm X, the Black Panther Party, and scholars of black liberation spoke of internal colonialism as a way to describe the condition of African Americans. The Panthers argued that ghettos were colonies of a larger imperial system, with police acting as soldiers of occupation. This perspective explains why police violence is not random but systemic. It is the logic of colonial control applied domestically. Keep the colonized population in check to prevent disruption of those who profit from their labor and land. But what would such freedom look like in practical terms? Farrakhan argues that the responsibility begins within the community itself. Clean streets, safe homes, and orderly neighborhoods must be built from within, not handed down from an external system that profits from dysfunction. Why should communities continue to fund systems that oppress them with their own tax dollars? Instead, Farrakhan calls for reallocating those resources to train black officers, veterans, and young people in disciplined self-policing. By doing so, the community could enforce peace while protecting dignity, rather than being subjected to humiliation and death. This vision recalls earlier experiments in self-defense and community safety. The Deacons for Defense and Justice in the 1960s organized armed patrols to protect civil rights workers from white supremacist violence. Farrakhan's words revive this lineage, urging that today's youth, many of whom are already trained in discipline and militancy, but lack direction, could be mobilized to defend rather than destroy. Education, too, stands at the center of this colonial critique. A school system rooted in white supremacy, he argues, cannot produce a people who are clean, upright, strong, and self-determined. History curricula erase or distort the black past, while disciplinary practices criminalize black children at an early age. Schools in many black neighborhoods remain underfunded, with outdated books, crumbling buildings, and overcrowded classrooms. The consequence is predictable: cycles of poverty and incarceration that perpetuate dependency. To break free requires building independent systems of learning that affirm black identity, culture, and excellence. Historically, this has been done before. During Reconstruction, black communities across the South pooled their limited resources to establish schools, sometimes in barns or churches, determined to educate children despite poverty and terror. Leaders like Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Negro History Week, recognized the need for education rooted in truth rather than whitewashed narratives. Independent schools, Afrocentric curricula, and community-led tutoring initiatives all serve as modern expressions of this same drive for educational liberation. Farrakhan situates his call within this long struggle, insisting that education cannot be left in the hands of those invested in subjugation. At its core, his message is about reclaiming agency. Colonialism thrives when the colonized believe they have no power except through the structures imposed upon them. But history shows that when oppressed people take control of their own institutions, even in small ways, they shift the balance of power. Whether through community policing, self-run schools, or local businesses that reinvest in neighborhoods, the path to freedom begins with rejecting dependency on those who benefit from subjugation.
But some women would say, well, listen, I should be able to dress however I want to dress. It shouldn't matter what I have on. I should command that same type of respect. And that is something that's been going on. They've had the slut walk that's been going on in different countries and nations. And I would love to know what you have to say about that today.
I would say to my dear sisters, look, I'm in love with you. I love you like I love life itself. I respect and honor you because that's the way I've been taught and trained. But my dear sisters, you have to learn how to respect yourself. These things that make you attractive to men, they're called in the Quran your adornments. Your breast adorns your body. The beauty of your hair is an adornment. Men don't freak out over our hair unless, we're a little strange, but but a woman's hair is a thing of beauty. Your hair beautifies you. Your breast is what we all nursed from when we came in this world. Unless mother was too busy and you and I became bonded not to our mother's breast, but to a plastic bottle. Your thighs. We came from between your thighs into this world. And somebody had to get between your thighs to produce life. You are not just a woman, you are a sacred vessel. I'm not trying to put our women on a pedestal that they don't deserve to be on. No man is a man without a woman. It's a woman that helps the man to be a man. A man that don't have a woman don't know if he's one. What do I mean by that? A woman will test you to see if you are what you say you are. Any woman that you fall in love with, she love you too, but she gonna try you. That's her nature. She gotta know that she can depend on you. She gotta know that you'll stand up for her. She got to know that you'll back up the children.
Minister Louis Farrakhan responds to a question that has stirred debate across generations. Should a woman's clothing determine the respect she receives? Movements such as the slut walk, which began in Canada and spread across nations, challenge the idea that women invite disrespect or violence by the way they dress. The demand is simple yet profound. Women insist that their dignity should not depend on attire, and that their humanity deserves recognition regardless of appearance. Farrakhan, however, offers a response rooted in both affection and caution. He begins not with critique, but with love. He addresses black women as sacred, declaring that he loves them as he loves life itself. He speaks of the honor he feels toward women, not as a matter of courtesy, but as a principle of faith and training. Yet his message is not only affirmation. He insists that women must learn the discipline of self-respect, suggesting that modesty and presentation carries a deeper meaning than fashion. Drawing from the Quran, Farrakhan describes the physical features of women as adornments, expressions of beauty that command attention. The hair, the breasts, the body itself, all are described as divine gifts. A woman's hair, he notes, is a crown that beautifies her, a symbol of identity that men may admire but can never replicate. The breasts, he reminds, are the first source of nourishment for every human being, the sacred bond between mother and child. The thighs, he continues, represent the very passage through which life enters the world. Each aspect of the female body is thus framed not merely as attractive but as sacred. This language is deliberate. Farrakhan is teaching that women embody the vessel of life itself, and that to treat their adornments as casual or purely sexual is to diminish their divine role. He does not present this as pedestalizing women in unrealistic ways, but as recognizing the essential truth that men cannot exist without women. It is through women that life is given, nurtured, and sustained. For that reason, he cautions his sisters to carry themselves with a respect that matches their sacredness. His message also turns toward the relationship between men and women. A man, he argues, is incomplete without a woman. More than companionship, a woman provides the tests and trials through which a man proves his character. When a woman loves a man, she will not simply accept his words. She will challenge him to see if his actions align with his claims. She will examine whether he can be trusted to protect her, to support the children she may bear, and to remain steadfast when life demands strength. For Farrakhan, this testing is not antagonism, but love in action. Placed in a broader context, this dialogue reflects ongoing struggles within black communities around respectability, gender, and survival. Black women have historically borne the double weight of racism and sexism, often judged harshly for their appearance while denied protection from violence. The demand for respect, regardless of dress, arises from centuries of exploitation, from the auction block where black women's bodies were inspected and commodified, to modern media that reduces them to stereotypes. Farrakhan's call for modesty intersects uneasily with these histories, but his underlying point is clear. Women must not see themselves through the degrading lens imposed by outside forces. They must reclaim their sacredness as a source of dignity and strength. At the same time, his words challenge men. Too often, discussions of women's appearance focus solely on female responsibility, while excusing male misconduct. Farrakhan insists that men must rise to a standard as well. A woman tests a man not to demean him, but to ensure he is worthy of her trust. Men must demonstrate courage, loyalty, and stability. Without these qualities, they cannot claim the title of manhood. Thus, the responsibility of respect is mutual. Women must honor themselves as sacred vessels, and men must prove themselves as protectors and partners. The message carries a particular resonance for black families. Centuries of slavery and systemic oppression deliberately fractured the bonds between men, women, and children. Enslaved women were stripped of control over their own bodies. Enslaved men were denied the ability to protect their families. In the aftermath, economic exploitation and mass incarceration further destabilized black households. Farrakhan's teaching insists that healing begins with recognizing the sacred role of women and the tested strength of men. Together, they must rebuild the foundation that oppression sought to destroy. His response to the question of attire is therefore more than commentary on clothing. It is a meditation on value, identity, and the spiritual foundation of family. By describing hair, breasts, and thighs as adornments, he elevates them from objects of lust to symbols of life. By reminding women of their sacredness, he calls them to carry themselves with dignity. By reminding men that they are tested, he calls them to rise to the responsibility of love and protection. And if this message spoke to you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Black Culture Unlocked. You can also turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and keep the conversation alive in the comments below. Thank you for watching.